nation and in defense of our democracy. Those brave Americans and so many others who have worked, fought, and died for more than 200 years to protect our system of government of the people, by the people, for the people. Upholding that legacy is our highest duty, and it's in that spirit, Mr. President, that I rise today. On November 3rd of 2020, I was serving as California Secretary of State. It was my privilege for 6 years to serve as the Chief Elections Officer in our nation's most populous and most diverse state. And I can tell you that even in the best of times, election administration is complex. Elections are consequential operations. But last year, our elections workers at all levels of government faced the additional unprecedented challenge of administering an election during a global health pandemic. And I'm proud to say that they rose to the occasion to protect the democratic legacy that we hold in trust. And as a result, California's elections officials administered an accessible, secure, and safe election which drew historic voter turnout. Indeed, by every objective measure, the 2020 elections were a national success. But none of this mattered to President Trump, who has spent years attacking the integrity of our elections by repeatedly lying about voter fraud and, quote, rigged elections, even the election that he won in 2016. President Trump was furious at his 2020 loss, and he chose to take a sledgehammer to the core of our democratic system. He didn't just refuse to concede the election, breaking a tradition that dates back to Thomas Jefferson. President Trump attacked the very notion of a peaceful transition of power. Along the way, he filed and lost more than 60 cynical lawsuits challenging the election. He personally called state elections officials and pressured them to alter vote tallies, tallies that had been counted, recounted, and audited. And he lied to the American people, tweeting out a steady stream of conspiracy theories and disinformation denying his electoral loss. Online and around the country, President Trump's big lie caught fire. And sadly, many Republican officials participated in fanning the flames, spreading fears of voter fraud for political gain. Others stood by silently as President Trump radicalized his supporters with falsehoods. They chose loyalty to Trump over the truth, delusion over democracy. Let me be clear, these allegations of fraud had no basis in fact. They were rooted in Trump's ego and cemented in white supremacy. And they led directly to the deadly insurrection of January 6th, an unprecedented attack on our nation's capital by violent extremists against the United States House of Representatives and this Senate, invited and incited by the President of the United States. Armed rioters brutally beat Capitol police officers and stormed this building. The Confederate flag, the symbol of violent white supremacy, flew inside this Capitol for the first time in our nation's history. Members of militarized hate groups searched these hallways with the intent to kill elected leaders of both parties. They made their way to this very floor to try and stop the certification of the presidential election. And in so doing, they terrorized our staff, Capitol Police, the free press, our citizens across the country, and our democracy itself. Mr. President, through their violence, the January 6th rioters disrupted our democracy at the behest of President Trump, and our nation lost the right to call the transition of power peaceful. Now, we gather in the wake of this armed insurrection, the deadly insurrection. The scars of January 6th can still be seen throughout the building. And yet, many of my Republican colleagues say, we just need to move on. Let's just move forward. They say that this deadly attack was simply a group of peaceful protesters on a normal tourist visit. They claim that the proposed commission to investigate the January 6th insurrection is unnecessary because we've already increased Capitol security, and our congressional committees are already investigating this attack. These arguments are outrageous. Of course, we need an independent commission to fully investigate the causes of the attack. We need to know the whole truth about January 6th. We need, and the American people deserve, an independent, bipartisan investigation that will give us the facts and allow us to begin the hard work of restoring public trust in our democracy. It's the only way to ensure that an attack like this does not happen again. The bipartisan bill we're considering is modeled after the bipartisan 9/11 Commission. Imagine arguing in the wake of 9/11 that the only problem that we needed to address was airport security. That's how ridiculous this counter-argument is. To brush aside the January 6th attack on the American people would be the ultimate dereliction of our duty. Colleagues, we swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So I call on my Republican colleagues to live up to that oath, live up to that sacred duty. And if you cannot, if your hand is frozen by fear of those who were misled to believe that the election was stolen, if your hand is frozen out of fear of the president who sold that lie, then the insurrectionists have succeeded. Mr. President, I urge the Senate to authorize the January 6th Commission on a bipartisan vote. But if our Republican colleagues refuse to join us, then we will face another choice. Do we continue to defend our system of self-government, or defend the filibuster? The stakes could not be higher. The choice could not be clearer. The peaceful transition of power must be defended. Colleagues, this is a moment where we must put country over politics, to put the institutions of our democracy over the abuse of the filibuster. On January 6th, our government was attacked. And now the future of our democracy is on the line. Let's act like it. Mr. President, I yield the floor.